I got a huge pit in my stomach.
He's a disabled Vietnam vet, now with nowhere to call home.
I've not been here since this happened.
Why did his realtor sell his house for just a fraction of what it was worth? In Portland's hot real estate market, buyers are often in these sort of bidding wars.
Well, that's great for people selling their house, and that's why our Dan Tilkin is here with a warning about a particular sales technique in his special report, Seller Beware. Dan?
Well, this is about something often called pocket listings. For this disabled veteran now sleeping on a friend's couch, is a story we first learned about after our Emily Sinovic first did another story involving his property about a tree controversy.
Well, this is what's left of a giant cedar tree that neighbors were trying to save.
When Emily stood in front of this Multnomah Village property in July, the new landowner was cutting down the iconic tree to split the lot and build 2 homes.
They told us it would be a while.
And then you heard chainsaws this morning.
Right.
They're just going to build 2 $800,000 houses on it to keep the money flowing.
Another neighbor told us there was another reason to be concerned. That reason was what happened to Roger Slade. This is the house you raised your kids in.
I raised my kids in. My family raised me in it. You know, I came here in the 4th grade.
If you look on Google Street View, you can still see Roger's house before it was torn down just months ago. That's his grandson on the front step. Roger had to sell because he was in financial trouble, and he turned to a family friend and realtor, Nick Bodeman. Bodeman advised they do what's often called in the industry a pocket listing, meaning they would not list the house on the Regional Multiple Listing Service, or RMLS. The RMLS is the standard way realtors tell other realtors and the world about their properties.
This was the driveway going into a 1-car garage.
Without advertising the property, Bodeman found a cash buyer quickly. In this email to Roger's ex-wife Peggy, who's still close to Roger and helped with the sale, Bodeman writes, "I think that $185,000 is a very fair purchase price and allows you to get out of there quickly without putting another dollar into it."
He said we had to put in $60,000 to $120,000 to get this house updated. New roof, new wiring, new plumbing, paint job, and everything like this right here. And so, wow, I do not have $60,000 to $120,000 to invest in this house.
The deal closed February 24th. Then, 16 days later, the man who bought the house from Roger for $185,000 sold it for $450,000 to well-known developer Renaissance Homes.
We contacted him as soon as we found out it was sold for such a high price and asked why. And he just said, "I'm sorry, hope we're still friends. I should have did more research."
Adding to Roger's confusion, records show a representative for Renaissance contacted the city about whether the company could demolish the existing dwelling, meaning Roger's home, and redevelop 2 confirmed lots, meaning split Roger's lot. That was back on February 12th. That's 12 days before Roger even sold the property to the buyer Nick Bodeman found. Hey, Nick, this is Dan Tilkin with KOIN TV, Channel 6. How are you? After twice agreeing to interviews, noon Wednesday, okay, Bodeman changed his mind. But Bodeman told me he only wanted to help a friend get out of a bad financial situation quickly. The real estate agency that he works with told me it was not an inside deal. And the man who bought Roger's house and then flipped it to Renaissance says he learned about Roger's house through word of mouth and then was approached about selling to Renaissance out of the blue. I've also tried setting up interviews with Renaissance. By phone, a representative told me, "I don't disagree he got the short end of the stick, but that had nothing to do with us." In a statement, Renaissance told us it didn't know anything about Roger until they already agreed to the higher price.
Generally speaking, a pocket listing is bad for the seller.
Realtor Stephen Fitzmaurice works for a different agency and has nothing to do with Roger's situation and won't comment. But he wrote this article against pocket listings. For one, he says, buyers have been fighting over properties listed on the RMLS.
And if, the seller really needs to move, we could potentially have a slightly under market price that would generate a much above market price with almost certainty that we could move that property that first weekend that we put it on.
In an email to Roger's ex-wife, Nick Bodeman writes, In hindsight, I would clearly encourage you to list in the RMLS and possibly make another couple mortgage payments until we could find the right buyer. However, at the time you guys wanted to avoid another payment and sell quick. I'm still confident that we did the right thing at the time. We just happened to be slapped across the face at the same time. I wish there was something I could do to go back in time and change this entire thing, but we all know that is not possible. And after your debts to paid off, you walked away with what?
Zero.
So Roger has filed a complaint with the state's real estate agency, and meanwhile we've put statements from Nick Bodeman and Renaissance Homes on KOIN.com so you can read their full response.
Dan, here's a question. Isn't a realtor really hurting their commission when they do a pocket listing?
Right, that could be the case, but keep in mind when they do this pocket listing, the realtor can get both the buyer and seller side of the commission.
Yeah.
They can also avoid advertising costs, and sometimes I'm told by realtors that there can be a finder's fee involved here, but there's nothing in this case to suggest there was a finder's fee.
All right.
Dan's story is always so informative, and if folks want to see it again, it'll be posted on KOIN.com. And as we